My name is Drew Taylor, and welcome to the show. Today we will be discussing the connection between the 2016 Brussels bombings and the 1919 Anarchist bombings, Alexander Prokorenko and John Basilone, and Coachella and Woodstock. So let's begin. On March 22, 2016, 3 bombs were set off in the city of Brussels, Belgium. 2 of these bombs were detonated in the Brussels airport, and the other one was detonated in the Maalbeek metro station. There are 32 victims killed in the attack, as well as 3 bombers, and over 300 people were left wounded. Police looked into the tragedy shortly after it occurred and discovered that there were 5 perpetrators involved. The terrorist group ISIS quickly claimed responsibility for the attacks. This event is similar to the anarchist bombings. In April of 1919, a group of anarchists led by Luigi Galliani sent approximately 36 bombs in the mail to prominent politicians and government buildings. Luckily, the bombs did not kill any of their intended targets, but there were 2 people with serious injuries. Later in June, the same group set off 8 bombs simultaneously in 8 U.S. cities. These attacks resulted in 2 deaths, one of them being an anarchist. Overall, the anarchists are similar to ISIS in that they decided to spread their radical ideas by using violence. Now we will go to Sammy to talk about Alexander Prokorenko and John Basilone.
Thanks for that great information, Drew. And for my segment, we will be comparing the recent death of Russian soldier Alexander Prokorenko to the late American hero John Basilone. Prokorenko just recently took his own life, and while many will consider that a cowardly act, the way he did it was under much different circumstances than any would think. Prokorenko and his men were stationed in the ancient Syrian city of Palmyra with the goal of capturing a group of ISIS soldiers. While invading a building, Prokorenko found himself trapped. While other Russian soldiers escaped, Prokorenko had no way out. He feared of being tortured, beaten, or even murdered. Next, he did something that even some of his fellow soldiers claimed they would never do. Prokorenko called an airstrike on himself, killing him and all the ISIS troops surrounding him. He wanted to die with dignity and honor as opposed to being beaten and murdered by the ISIS members. Prokorenko's last words to his general were, "I want to die with dignity and take all these bastards with me. Please, my last wish, conduct the airstrike. They will kill me either way." Now, a few weeks after his death, Prokorenko has been honored throughout his country, as President Putin awarded Prokorenko the title of Hero of the Russian Federation. Now let's go check out my recent interview in Moscow, Russia, with 2 of Alexander's closest military friends, Vladimir Smirnov and Vladimir Petrov.
Moscow, Russia, interviewing some of Mr. Prokorenko's very close friends and family members. Nice to meet you, Vladimir.
Yes, you do.
Nice to meet you, Vladimir.
Vladimir II.
Vladimir, can you tell me exactly what happened in the incident?
Which Vladimir?
Either one of you would be fine.
I don't like to speak about it.
We were in the building, surrounded by ISIS troops. Me and Vladimir, we fled. Alex, he stayed behind. In the end, he ended up calling the airstrike on himself and killed all the ISIS troops.
What were your feelings on his brave actions during that night?
It was something brave. Something very brave that I will not be able to do.
People all over the world respect him for this.
What did Mr. Prokorenko mean to either of you as a friend?
He was not only just a friend, but a partner.
Alex was like family to me. I hate losing family. Oh.
Thank you for this interview. I know it's been a very tough time for both of you. Thank you, Vladimir. Thank you, Vladimir.
The second. And this is how we say goodbye in Russia.
Wow. What great men those 2 are. Now to my discussion comparing Prokorenko to John Basilone, also known as the hero of the Battle of Guadalcanal. As it's obvious to see Prokorenko's bravery, John Basilone possessed all the same traits. While stationed in the army for World War II, Basilone would do something that would make him an American hero for decades to come. With his 15-member unit cut down to 3 by the Japanese, Basilone had one choice to make. He could either sit there and wait to be slaughtered, or he could somehow do the impossible and hold off 3,000 Japanese soldiers. He decided to take the hard way out and head off these Japanese soldiers for 3 days until he ran out of ammunition. At this point, the Japanese thought they could charge the American base and end the battle. This is where they were wrong. Basilone held them off with a single pistol. By the time this attack was over, the Japanese troops on the opposite side of the line were virtually torn to shreds. Basilone's bravery and dedication to his country made him the only American in history to earn both the Medal of Honor and the Navy Cross. Basilone's great bravery surely reminds me of Alexander Prokorenko. While both men got the highest possible military medals for their respective countries, they also showed great honor and bravery. Thanks for listening. Now off to you, Aiden.
Hi, I'm Aiden Migliotti, and today we will be discussing 2016's Coachella Music Festival with 1969's Woodstock Music Festival. Both are phenomenal examples of the culture scene in each generation. Influential performers performed nearly all day and all night, non-stop for the viewers. It was a weekend-long event, and so was Coachella. There were nearly 500,000 in attendance at the farm in Bethel, New York for Woodstock. The variety of acts at Woodstock attracted many, some would say, drug-empowered youth viewers. I was lucky enough to be at Coachella 2016, where I got a chance to catch up with some of the modern-day youth audiences. Let's take a look. Alright, so we're here at Coachella 2016. It's like the setup, it's like 8 a.m. I don't know, but I'm hearing Jimi Hendrix, and I heard they were trying something new today. It's gonna be pretty cool. I think they're... What is that? Oh my god. It's Jimi Hendrix hologram? What? Oh my god, this is gonna be crazy. Woodstock! Oh, hello, sir. May I ask you a few questions about Coachella?
Sure thing, my man.
Alright, are you excited to see who's about to perform here?
Oh yeah, Jimi Hendrix's hologram, ASAP
Oh, you
Rocky,
heard about that. You heard
Guns
about
N'
that.
Roses. This is gonna be cool.
Yeah. So, are any of these artists influential to you, like Woodstock artists might have been?
ASAP Rocky, his music.
Nice.
Wow,
Nice.
really good.
So, do you know anything about the time period of Woodstock and everything was going on then?
Oh yeah, 1969. Ooh. 500,000 people went to that, right?
Yeah, like 500,000.
Insane.
Do you know where it was? Wow. Okay. Well, although those videos may not have been the best and are pretty weird, the culture is still there and very prevalent. An attendance record was broken this past April with about 200,000 tickets sold over the 2 weekends. The music may have transformed since 1969, but the culture of this generation shows just as strongly as the culture of the 60s did. Finally, we have a serious interview with Buddy Falzarano, who was a teen around the time of Woodstock and was influenced by the culture. Let's take a look. Alright, so how old were you in 1969 for Woodstock?
I was 17, working at ShopRite, and I didn't know much about Woodstock, but we knew it was happening, and somebody at ShopRite wanted to go.
They were
Older than me.
older?
And he said, and I don't know, a couple of my friends might have been going, but, Grandma, Mom and Dad wouldn't let me go. Grandma and Grandpa wouldn't
Why
let me
wouldn't they let you
go.
go?
They thought it was too risky.
Yeah, I mean, I heard a lot of, like 500,000 people just like pack the streets going up there and everything.
Back then, we only had 3 major TV stations, but every one of them on that weekend showed. They were saying it was 500,000 people. They the New York Thruway was closing. What a lot of the newscasters would show, because I guess a lot of those guys got held up too, was cars on the side of the road, kids, kids having a good time. Yeah, man, we're going to Woodstock,
So, was the music and the culture mostly focused on teens there?
At Woodstock?
Yeah, Woodstock and just like the time.
Well,
like that.
To me it was, because I was 17 and
like mostly that age group would.
Yeah, well, I think older too. You know what I always say, whether it's true or not, I always say that the 60s came to New Jersey in the 70s, because it was after Woodstock that I feel like the drug culture and that freedom of that new spirit that we're going to change the world with love and music.
Like the
I felt-
transition into the
Right.
70s.
I felt like it came here, but maybe because it wasn't, it might have resonated with me starting when I was 17 or 18, but it happened out, even though I heard the music from the Summer of Love, which was 1967, and even though I was aware of the Grateful Dead and Jefferson Starship, Jefferson Airplane, and those groups out in California, and what was going on in Haight-Ashbury and all that stuff, the hippie movement and all that. Because I was 17, I didn't have long hair then, but a year or two later, I grew my hair.
You grew it all the way.
I got my hair long,
Yeah.
and that was a big thing. That was a big thing for people around here to see, and a lot of us started to have longer hair then.
So like there was noticeable changes in society after Woodstock.
I think that there were changes anyway, but that helped push it a little further because more people got to see it, and like I said, it got to. I always feel like it came to the East Coast a year. It was delayed coming to the East Coast on the level that it was already out on the West Coast.
Yeah, it was major on the West Coast first.
But there were people out here who were probably aware of that before me. Oh, maybe they were older than me. Maybe kids older than me were aware of that.
Yeah.
So
what artists like around that time period were
I
you most
could tell you,
interested in?
Santana, Jimi Hendrix, Crosby, Stills and Nash, who I saw 1 year later, or I saw a few months later at the. I saw them. They were at Woodstock, and I saw them on a movie from Woodstock. But I saw them at the Fillmore East. I saw them at the Fillmore East a couple of years later. Richie Havens, I remember Richie Havens sang a Beatles cover on this. Here Comes the Sun. I can still remember. I can still remember the music.
Yeah.
Country Joe and the Fish. I wasn't a big fan of Country Joe and the Fish, but they were there. Are you familiar with those?
Some of them, yeah. We listened to them in class, so like a lot of those names kind of ring a bell. Jimi Hendrix a lot. Actually.
Oh yeah,
I've been listening.
That's a really famous recording of him doing the Star Spangled Banner.
Oh, okay.
He closed. He was supposedly, if I'm right, that was the morning after the last act from the night before. That was in the morning. For some reason, he was the last act there, and he was played in the morning, and he played.
Oh, okay.
Jefferson Airplane was there. Sly and the Family Stone too. They were great there too. I saw the movie, and I had the 8-track.
When did the movie come out? Like
I think it came out like within the next year.
In the next year, wow.
Yeah, within might even been like 6 months or something like that.
It was a whole documentary on it, like.
It was a documentary and the music. So they show people skinny dipping out in the pond. They show people smoking pot. They show people playing in the mud.
It's the culture of the time, like there.
Right, and then they also showed, all the acts. Yeah. I don't think they showed all the acts, but they showed a lot of them. Most of them. Yeah.
So, like you and your friends were influenced by it, but did your parents react similarly, or?
My parents didn't like it when I grew my hair long.
Yeah.
That was like an evil thing.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? And some of the music they couldn't relate to, obviously, because it was different.
Yeah, a lot of it was drug influenced. I feel
exactly. A lot of it
at the time.
Well, one of the famous quotes from the Woodstock. If you see the movie, I forget. I'm thinking of this guy's name. He's like a cult figure, Wavy Gravy. He said, "Don't eat the brown acid, man." That was a famous line in that movie at Woodstock. Wavy Gravy was kind of like an MC. I think his name was Wavy Gravy.
This guy.
Yeah, that's it. There he is, Wavy Gravy. And then he said, and I think he was kind of. I don't know how. I never heard of him before that. But yeah.
So
he said I think he's the guy who said, "Man, he might have been the guy who said the New York Thruway is closed, man. We're like, this is the city here." I think there was 1 or 2 people born there too. I'm pretty sure, unless that's legend. I'm not sure about that.
So was there like a strong connection between the Vietnam War and all those events and the music?
I think so, because some of those bands, some of those artists wrote protest songs about the war. You know, the first one I'm thinking of right now is Crosby, Stills and Nash. You know, they had they wrote a couple protest songs. One of them wasn't directly about the Vietnam War. It's Tin Soldiers and Nixon Come. I don't know.
Oh
But
yeah, no, we heard that.
Four Dead in Ohio. That was
Yeah,
when,
for the
that was Kent State.
Kent State.
That was
Yeah,
Kent,
Kent
that
State.
was Kent State. But still, that was still
It was
part
the
of the.
time-
That
no,
was
it was
still
the
part
time.
of the rebellion against Sephardi, because that culture started to realize that or thought that everything that the establishment was saying, we can't believe everything that we can't believe that everything that the president of the United States or the country is saying is right. You have to freedom of speech, freedom of thought. So yeah, I think the peace movement. Obviously, a lot of those artists up there were for peace, and if you're for peace, you're not going to be for the Vietnam War.
Sure. Yeah, especially.
Plus, they, you know, because a lot of kids were going. You know, they had brothers and sisters and cousins going over there, and you know, some of them weren't coming back. So.
So, being a musician yourself, like, was there a major inspiration at that time to further everything? Yeah.
I idolized those guys. Jimi Hendrix, first of all. Of course. Santana, Crosby, Stills and Nash. I love the music in that soundtrack. You know, I mentioned them before.
Yeah.
Sly and the Family Stone has a great thing. I Want to Take You Higher. I think they even ended. They might have ended the movie with him. The movie might have ended with him in that song. Want to Take You Higher. Anyway, I'm trying to remember.
So I'm.
Are we doing good? All right.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. Yeah. I know you may not know that much about Coachella, but have you seen?
Well, this is what I heard. I know Coachella is a big festival. Where is it out? Is that West
It's
Colorado?
in no, like California,
California.
Southern California.
And I just heard something recently that Neil Young, The Who, Bob Dylan.
I think so.
And they're calling it Old Cella.
Coachella?
Because they're so.
Oh, I
because they're
heard
old,
about that
they're
too.
old acts.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just know Coachella is a
the festival.
big festival out there.
Yeah, it's they had like 200,000 people between 2 weekends. It's basically just like this big desert area that they set up everything.
Well, I knew they also have Burning Man out there too.
Yeah,
right?
Burning Man is a big festival out there too. But I mean, it's similar to what like the Woodstock event that I saw. Like, it's
that was a big thing when Woodstock happened because we were, we were going to Fillmore East and things like that. But to have all those people and all those musicians in one spot was it was an awesome thing. To have that many people in one spot.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Over the years, I've heard like in India and things like that, they have religious festivals that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even know how many, but probably a lot more than they have at Woodstock.
Yeah.
But for the United States, to have that many people in one spot,
pretty crazy. Have you seen like obviously there's been transition of the music through the times, but has there been like a clear transition between time periods too? Like between the 60s, 70s, like all the movements.
Well, the 60s was a music explosion because, the Beatles had a lot to do with that. And then, bands like the Beach Boys and, even though they weren't that radical. I mean, that's like when I think of the '60s, I think of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, all the British invasion bands.
Yeah,
Come to think of it, I'm trying to think if there was a British band. Oh yeah, 10 years after was another great. I just saw it in that. That's Alvin Lee. 10 years after, another great blues rock band. And that might be one of the only English bands that came over. I'm trying to think.
For Woodstock?
For Woodstock,
Yeah.
That's another. There's a song that they did called "Going Home." It's pretty famous.
Yeah, I'm looking at
And he said, "I'm going home." He says, "Going home by helicopter," because all those bands had to be flown in.
Oh,
by
because of the
helicopter.
roads?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Or most of them did.
Yeah.
What was that question? Because I thought I had more to answer to that.
So
the 60s and the 70s.
Oh, yeah, the time period.
So the 60s was that explosion. You know, Jefferson Airplane, the Grateful Dead. The 70s. I think my friends, we looked for the groups from the 60s that continue on. Some of them did, some of them didn't. You know, the 70s was a good time. The biggest I would say the biggest jump from the 60s though would be the 80s were different. It was more, I think the 80s music was more electronic.
Probably that, like...
Just it was, bands like the Cars and things like that. This was more of an electronic time.
Technology.
It wasn't as organic as that other music. And then the 90s was the grunge movement, and that kind of came back a little bit.
Yeah.
So what the 60s were, because some of those grunge people, like Neil Young, who played at Woodstock with Crosby, Stills and Nash, a lot of those grunge bands like Pearl Jam and they love. I don't know. I'm going away from what you want, but they like Neil Young, so I kind of went back. Anyway, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I mean, I think we've got pretty much everything, so...
All right, good.
Is there anything else? I mean, Woodstock time period, anything?
I love the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we thought that we were going to change the world with love and music. Mainly love, I think, and peace.
Powerful movement.
And music, not mainly, And there's a song by Jackson Brown called "Running on Empty."
Oh.
Put up the lyrics to "Running on Empty" because "Running on Empty," he kind of mentions the sentiment that I'm just talking about. What we thought was the establishment doesn't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They don't know about music. Our music is, but they don't. More importantly, they don't. It was like make love, not war. All right, here, "Run on Empty." Got to do what you can. Jackson Brown. I want to know what became of the changes we waited for love to bring. And that's the way I felt about society at that time.
Yeah.
We thought love would change the world. There would be no war. People would get along. But that's not realistic either, because life didn't change. Life is tough.
Definitely. All right, and that about concludes tonight's show. I just wanted to take this time now to thank Buddy Falzareno for his time and his knowledge. Thank you all for watching, and have a good summer. How much were these tickets? Do you guys know?
$10,000. $10,000.
Oh, hey, what's up, guys? He cracks up on the spot.
First off, I'd like to apologize for your loss of Mr. Prokorenko. I'm sorry. First off,
I believe it was very brave and something that I could not do.
This one is for Alex.
Oh my god, it's a Jimi Hendrix hologram. How is it so real?